Okay, so this is kind of the culmination of our environmental science semester, talking about really the personalization of all this information, which we've been collecting and processing and talking about in our classes, and that is how does it apply to your community and your lifestyle. So one of the biggest things worldwide, so again taking things more general, which has affected this has been urbanization. Urbanization is defined as the migration of people from rural areas to cities, and this is a trend, as you can see by this graph, in most parts of the world, especially in developing countries such as Asia and Africa. And what's happening is you're turning people are turning for and towards the cities as these urban areas become more populated because there aren't enough jobs to sustain them. A city is defined as a population of people of at least 400 people per square kilometer. So Buena Vista is not quite there, although I think it is defined as a city, as that municipality. I could be wrong. And generally these areas are dominated by human built landscapes. Rural areas are defined in the U.S. as areas with less than 2,500 people. And there's not there may be strict definitions for policies, but in general talk, it's kind of hard to blur the line, or the line is very blurred between these different types of groups of habitation. So, little history of urban sprawl, which is a problem in modern day cities and development. So before World War II, most people didn't have cars, although they were developed or invented and started to be produced before the war. Most people had to walk or take public transit, or trains for long distances. And so because everything you had to walk, everything was condensed into specific areas. So in a city, you would have basically one store of everything in a downtown area, and people could walk to and get everything they needed. After World War II, with the advent of more cars and a booming economy, people started to leave the city to develop houses in suburbs. So this increased demand of car, because generally the jobs were still in the city, but the suburbs were now places of residence. This created a housing boom and led to congestion of roads. So the solution to that was to create a highway trust fund to tax gasoline, which would connect these suburbs to the city, and then use that money to create more roads to decrease the congestion. Well, these new highways, all they did was open up areas to more and more development, and so you had more congestion with the development of these roads. And so all of these then centralized businesses then started to also move with the developments, at least a lot of them. So shopping areas, workplaces, all these shifted from cities to the suburbs. And this has caused a decrease in city population. You can see this in the graph. Most major cities have decreased in their population since 1950 especially. So what this led then is this sprawl, these large lots with larger homes, and everything being more and more spread out rather than densely populated in a city. And this can be measured. One of the things mentioned in the book is how these things were measured using residential density, so how many people per residence per area, the mix of the neighborhood, looking at the accessibility of street networks, and then the strength of the activity of the downtowns and centers. So these factors were looked into and factored into the overall sprawl index, and they found that places like New York, San Francisco do not have a lot of sprawl. They're very condensed, whereas areas further from these dense populations, like Riverside, California, is the most sprawling area in the U.S. So some of these impacts, environmental, include energy resources. So people have to go back and forth every day from their jobs to their homes, and this uses a lot of energy, produces a lot of pollution, also strains water resources because you have impervious surfaces such as these roads, which now water can rush down and then increases erosion. You're also losing land to agriculture for these developments, and of course habitat destruction is a big problem as well. Has also led to a impact in the quality of life of many different groups. So more people have more vehicles, especially in the US, which has decreased their need for walking and their physical activity. And then congestion continues to be a problem no matter how many roads you make. With the sprawling effect, you always are running into traffic, especially in these larger metropolitan areas. The benefits of these suburbs are you have lower density residential living, essentially more room for people to live in, a larger lot size, larger single family homes, lower crime rates, better social services, such as in schools, communities more homogeneous, which I would see as a negative, and the housing costs decline because you can just go further out and make a cheaper house. So the kind of pros and cons can be seen in this documentary series called The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air about this inner city Philadelphia raised youth who is then transported to the suburbs of California in Bel-Air, which is more high-end society area. And so the Fresh Prince is benefiting from moving has all these benefits, and being taken out of the inner city, which has high crime rates and lack of social opportunities and governments that are defunct as well. So you kind of see the difference in the benefits between Carlton and the Fresh Prince, which I can't remember his name in the show. Anyway, all right, so smart growth then focuses on condensing these cities and preserving these city areas while preventing sprawl. So the initiatives of smart growth include setting boundaries on urban sprawl, saving open space rather than developing it, redeveloping existing urban space into new areas that can be used again, and creating new towns. Okay, so one of the things that Atlanta has recently focused on is creating a belt line to make so you have this freeway which surrounds Atlanta, and then you have a belt line which they're creating, which is going to have accessible parkways and light rail and other ways to make transportation much easier on the inner city, and this is going to save them lots of money and prevent sprawl. So urban blight then is caused by a side effect of this urban sprawl, or people moving out of the city, and what happens is the cities deteriorate, and you have first this was racial segregation, and it's still in many areas racially segregated, but currently is now also economically segregated. Poor people generally tend to stay in the cities because they can't afford homes out in the suburbs. This also caused a decrease in the tax income of the cities. So people with the jobs making money leave the city. Now the city can't have an income to even fix problems as they arise. So this causes an increase in poor, increase in the elderly who can't move, decrease in the real estate, schools and other public facilities, decrease in quality, and the people within there also cannot move because they don't have much purchasing power as well. So livable cities are ones that maintain these high population densities, but also have features which make them attractive to all types of incomes and people. They have a heterogeneity of residences, business, stores, and shops with a human dimension. So this marketplace here, you can see, is a good center within a city, provides places for people to walk and to shop and to naturally go and gather within the city. Has reduced automobile traffic and increased foot and public transportation traffic. So some areas like Tokyo and Japan are so densely populated, most people ride bikes when they need to go places, rather than cars. So sustainable cities then have achievements in social, economic, and physical development that are made to last. So they don't ignore these problems of urban sprawl and deterioration of the cities. So some criteria used to determine how sustainable a city is includes transit ridership, street congestion, air and water quality, energy and climate change, and the economy of green, renewable energy sources. And the U.S. has no cities ranked in the top 50 worldwide, and this depends on which ranking you're looking at. New York, Portland, and San Francisco rank among the top in the U.S., and Zurich, Germany, and Stockholm, Sweden are among the top in the world. So generally, European cities are actually much more sustainable than American cities, North American cities. So what does this mean for all of us? Environmental issues are not simple. Why? Well, they've got so many different factors to consider: convenience, politics, economics, science. All these things come together, and all of them have to be considered when trying to make changes. But changes can occur in multiple levels, including your individual lifestyle changes, consuming less, recycling more, being involved in political movements to help the environment or make sustainable decisions for your city, state, town, whatever. Volunteer work, career choices, maybe even getting your church or community organizations involved as well. Okay, so that's our last lecture for environmental science.